Fired up. Let's do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. You like this?
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here. Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. So, is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it. Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4. Great job, guys.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name's Mark, and should be my first live, I think. If so, if you're catching it, great. Don't have that many followers yet, but if hit the like and subscribe button, and hopefully you get notified when I go live or I post new videos on either Draftkings, Nascar, or if I'm going and doing some iRacing with a league that I race in on Wednesday and Thursday nights. So thanks for joining me, and man, what an absolute crazy debacle. There are not enough adjectives to describe what happened yesterday during practice and qualifying with the Cup Series, and even the Xfinity race was pretty wild. Things hopefully will get toned down a little bit this week, or for today's race, but it's a next gen car. It's new. We're 728 days since we raced at this track. It's sat in the sun for all those days, and it's rough. The surface is brutal on tires, and it's gonna be interesting. The side force on this next gen car, there really is not any. And I guess we got a glimpse of it last week at Daytona when the guys were trying to do side drafting, and the side draft really wasn't as apparent as it had been in the previous generation car. So the side force, when these guys are entering and exiting and going through the corners, really is not playing a factor, which is making the car very, very loose if you get back to the throttle too soon, or if you're, at least at Auto Club, if you're in one of the seams seem to be very slippery. So with all that in mind, we had a crazy day yesterday at practice and qualifying. Here's just a few glimpses of what happened. I mean, literally, Kevin Harvick wrecks his car I think on his get up to speed lap. He didn't even make a full on lap at speed before he wrecked his car. Same thing here with Ross Chastain, who totaled his car pretty much. And behind him ends up Chris Buescher wrecking. I think we ended up having 10 or 11 cars who spun, wrecked, or have had issues during practice and qualifying yesterday. Even before they even got started, just off the truck, Kurt Busch failed race inspection 3 times. He ends up having to go to the rear, having a pass-through penalty, unable to qualify, loses a pit crew member, and pit selection. Just talk about brutal for Kurt Busch. So he will be starting dead last, 36. Unsure if the guys who had issues during core qualifying that are sent to the rear will go behind him, but my guess is, even with that, he's still going to have to do his pass-through penalty, which will put him last on the field after that happens, and more than likely at least a lap down. Heck, he may even come in and change tires. He may start with his old practice tires so he doesn't use up a set for the first 3 or 4 laps. tires are going to be absolutely critical in this race. The tire wear is as severe as any other track that they run on. If they go 5 laps, 6 laps, and there's a caution, you're probably going to see these guys come in and get tires. If they have limited sets of tires for this race. So with that being said, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to watch. It's going to be very exciting. But issues during practice and qualifying, during the inspection, who failed twice during inspection before they even got to practice and qualifying. Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Bubba Wallace, and Truex Jr. all failed 2 times, which means they lose a crew member and their pit selection. Then during qualifying and practice, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and possibly Kyle Busch. We have not gotten word from NASCAR yet, or I have not seen word from NASCAR or any of the reporters on whether Kyle Busch's changes that he made will make him go to the rear. Very, very important, because Kyle Busch would have been one of my favorites with all these guys starting from the back, for Kyle to potentially be one of our dominators. If he is sent to the back, that throws the dominator push out for me, in my opinion, and really kind of throws the whole dominator points potentially out the window. Because we may see some guys, a lot of guys come from the back who are going to be the guys that we're going to need to target. They're all going to be fairly chalky. This is probably going to be as difficult to pick as the Daytona 500. With the big one, we're going to see lots of guys that are going to spin. They're going to use up tires. Pit strategy is going to be huge. So this is going to be kind of another throwing darts and kind of seeing who gets to be in the optimal lineup this week. Wish I had better news, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be tough. It's going to give some separation. There's probably going to be a lineup that is out there that is going to be like, there's no way this wins, and it ends up winning. So, but either way, let's kind of get into some of what's happening and what we're dealing with today. But we're at the Wise Power 400 at Auto Club Speedway, Southern California. Track type is a large oval. It is 2 miles in length and 14 degrees in the turns. They've got about 5 lanes of racing on this track, maybe 4, but 5 potentially also. The race length for this race is 200. There are 140 Dominator points that are available, 50 for the laps led, and 90 for fast laps. We're going to see fast laps all over the place with these guys that are really good, starting from the rear of the field. And laps led are going to be, I think, potentially whoever's going to lead the first stage may end up being one of our Dominators, and as long as they finish well. Because I think these guys are going to take it fairly easy till they figure out where that point is on how far they can push this car. The one good thing is the weather today in California is going to be warm. It's going to still make the track slick, but we don't have the 35, 40 mile an hour wind gust that we were dealing with yesterday. That was kind of wreaking a little havoc coming out of turn 4 and out of turn 2. So, who knows? This thing's going to be wild. All right, so let's break down what I have come up with at this point with all the different changes on where I think these guys will go into the power rankings. I'm not going to go as in depth on some of their stats to kind of keep this a little bit shorter, but check out my video that I posted on Friday if you would like more information on a little more details about each drivers. That can be found in my YouTube and Rumble channels. But let's break this down a little bit. Kyle Larson, 11,600, the most expensive guy in the field, is starting 13th, no penalties, so he will hold his 13th starting spot, and he has a power ranking of 6. I expect Kyle Larson to be one of the favorites to win this race. On how quickly he can make it to the front and how many laps he might lead is way up in the air. Next in line, Chase Elliott, as we saw in that video a second ago, his car is very, very fast here. but he did push the envelope too far during qualifying and gets a starting spot of 8th. He was going to probably get the pole away from Austin Cindric, but did not, which may give us a little bit of benefit and give us maybe some PD upside and potentially even a chance for him to finish very well and maybe get some Dominator points. But 11,100, power ranking of 11th for today's race. Denny Hamlin, 10,700, starting 4th. If Kyle Busch does have to go to the rear for his approved or unapproved, unsure at this point, changes, that'll move him up to 3, but his starting position stays the same in 4th. Same thing with all these other guys. If these cars have repairs that have to be done, they will move up before the start of the race, but their starting position, from what NASCAR is calling their starting position, will stay that. So Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin, what you're seeing is 13, 8, and 4, respectively. They will hold that, and that will hold true throughout this video. If there are penalties or whatever that happen, they hold their starting position, but they will have to start the race from the rear of the field. Denny Hamlin, I now have power ranked at 8th because of his starting position, and because I just think all these guys are going to have some type of issue, and being a Dominator will be tougher. So there's not a lot of PD upside for Denny, but potentially some Dominator points can be had. All right, next in line here, Kyle Busch, big question marks. As you see the double asterisk beside his name and beside his power ranking. Currently, if he holds his 3rd starting spot, I'm going to keep him at a 4 power ranking. If he has to go to the rear and has to come to the front, he will still hold that 3rd starting spot and will then have to work his way through the field with all these other cars that are super unstable. So 10,400, power ranking of 4 currently, but if he has to start from the rear of the field and hold that starting spot of 3rd, that will go down drastically. I will not have as much exposure to Kyle Busch. Usually I don't think that hurts these guys all that much, but because these cars are so unstable and these guys are going to be doing some different things on strategies and tires and things of that nature, it could be an S with a hit show. Ryan Blaney next in line, 10,000, starting 6th, power ranking 7th. If Ryan Blaney can keep himself clean, I expect Ryan Blaney to be right up there very quickly with Denny Hamlin and potentially be somebody that we can target for some Dominator points. Also, I mean, 6th to 1st is some PD upside, but either way, let's keep this train rolling. Martin Truex Jr., 9,800, starting 12th. I have him 2nd on the power ranking because, number one, he is very good at this style of track. He also is very good at just this track, and he's got some PD upside, and he could easily get up to the front and have some Dominator points. So a little bit of PD upside here and potential of some of that Dominator upside. I still think we're going to target 1 to 2 Dominators per lineup, and the rest of them are going to be PD upsides. We're going to have to end up, because there's so many good drivers starting from the back, we're going to have to kind of figure out who we need to look at for value drivers. William Byron, 9,600, starting 10th. Not a whole lot of PD upside here. William Byron is pretty good at high tire wear tracks. He did win the Homestead race last year on a high tire wear track, and he did it with patience. So if William Byron can keep his patience, starting 10th may not be all that bad for him. But because we don't have a whole lot of stats from him, power ranking of 16th. All right, next in line here, Joey Logano, 9,400. He does have a starting spot of 7th, but he does have a penalty for unapproved repairs to his car after running into the wall during qualifying, so he will go to the rear of the field. Don't particularly like that 5 as a power ranking anymore because he has to start. His starting spot doesn't change, but his actual starting spot will be at the rear of the field. Not that Joey can't come up through the field and end up finishing better than 7th, just a little tougher. All right, Kevin Harvick, 9,200, starting 32nd. He never even took a lap at qualifying. Kevin's very, very good at this track. As long as his car is going to end up being in good shape, then I think we're going to be an okay position with Kevin. I really like his PD upside here. He's a veteran. He's been around for a long time. He knows how to work on the car throughout the day. I don't think he's going to have much of any Dominator points other than maybe a few fast laps, but Kevin could really end up being a top 5 contender, which is a huge PD upside play. He also will be very chalky. Alex Bowman, 9,000, starting 14th. He won this race 728 days ago, or the last time they raced here. I potentially expect Alex Bowman to be a little bit maybe overlooked, not as chalky. Could end up being the surprise pick here. Power ranking of 9th, but I like Alex Bowman's starting spot. I like his potential. He does very well at high tire wear tracks and being patient and getting himself through the field. You know, it's all depending on whether he gets tied up in somebody else's funny business or if he has his own funny business. All right, Kurt Busch, 8,800. He did take a lot of practice laps, but as we spoke with earlier, 3 times he missed on inspection, so does not even get a chance to qualify. Will be starting 36. Does have a pass-through penalty, but if things are holding true, we'll probably have a penalty shortly after he goes through his pass-through penalty. My guess is he might take tires. Keep his old tires that he practiced on to go through, then have some fresh tires. We'll give him 3 or 4 lap fresher tires than everybody else. If that's the case, and everybody needs to come in and do a little bit of work, 10 laps in, it could put him right back, on the lead lap very quickly. So I don't think starting 36 or that penalty of the drafted penalty is going to hurt Kurt Busch all that much. So I like Kurt Busch a lot. He's got a decent price tag on him. All right, next in line here, we've got Brad Keselowski, 8,600, starting 9th on the field. But just like Joey, he will have to go to the rear. I'm going to check Twitter real quick to see if there's any information about Kyle real quick. Hey, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Helps me out in getting some new followers. NASCAR has now decided, from Goodyear Racing and Bob Hockers, NASCAR has decided to give the Cup teams an extra set of tires for today. The drivers will now have 12 sets of tires. That could end up being very potential. If you watched the Xfinity race yesterday, Anthony Alfredo came pretty much from almost dead last on, the last spot on the lead lap with like 5 laps to go. And because of cautions and stuff, was able to work himself up got all the way up to 2nd and then ended up finishing 5th. But that was a great run for Anthony Alfredo. The tires are going to be crucial. If you've got an extra set with 10 laps to go, you're on the lead lap, and you're one of the only ones who've got it, you could be sitting great potential of having a great finish. Still no official word on Kyle Busch yet. So we'll keep checking as we go through here. So Brad's going to have a starting spot of 9th, but have to go to the rear of the field because of unapproved changes. Brad's really good here. He very easily could work himself up front. But it's going to be a treacherous trip to get up there. Tyler Reddick, 8,400, starting 11th, 19th at the power ranking. Just want to have a whole lot of information on Tyler. At this style track, but Tyler Reddick loves to run the high line. He ran super well at Miami last year, which is a high tire wear track, running close to the wall. He, Ross Chastain, and Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell all love to get up at that high line and just you get a lot of momentum coming off of the corners and into the straightaways. But you live dangerously up there. If you get a little bit loose or a little bit sideways, the wall's not very far away, like 6, 8, 12 inches away. All right, next in line here, Ross Chastain, who I'm not sure even got a full lap in before he destroyed his car and had to go to a backup. So starting 33rd on the field, 8,200. Ross is just like Tyler. He loves to run up at that top lane. If that groove comes in, Ross could end up being somebody that really is a great PD upside play. I'll have a decent amount of him, other than the fact that he didn't get any real practice time in. But 15th on the power ranking. Next in line here, Christopher Bell, another guy that loves to run that high line. $8,000. 18th on the power ranking, starting 19th. Has only started at Auto Club once. So not a whole lot of stats for Christopher Bell, but he typically is fairly good at this style track. With a little bit of PD up starting 19th. Austin Dillon, 7,800, starting 16th. No issues in practice or qualifying. Just good, solid laps out there for him. 13th on the power ranking. He's not a bad play. He potentially easily could be a top 5 contender, or even top 10 contender, which gives us a little bit of PD upside. But along with anybody else, if he has issues, it'd be costly. Chris Buescher, another one who loves to run that high line. Potentially could be somebody that we would want to target, but he was able to make repairs before qualifying, so no rear of the field penalization for Chris Buescher. Actually, he didn't really have to make any real repairs. All he had to do is put new tires on, and that is not a penalty of going to the rear. But starting 20th, Chris Buescher may be a interesting play. Austin Cindric. Ooh. Told you we didn't have any stats on him, and told you momentum is huge in this sport, and Austin Cindric definitely proved those things correct. Taking the pole for this race after winning the Daytona 500 last week. I mean, he's racing for a great team under Penske, but wow, Austin Cindric was fast yesterday during qualifying. Starting from the pole, you know how I feel about people starting from the pole. I just don't have enough information on Austin Cindric to know how much he's going to go out and lead. He could lead quite a few laps to start, but he hasn't found that edge yet of where the car breaks loose on him. I mean, he's a great race car driver. I just don't like the starting spot of first. That's just, there's no PD upside. There's only PD downside. If he has a little bit of mistake, going to fall to the rear. We saw that yesterday in the Xfinity race when AJ Allmendinger, who was great at this style track, started on the pole, ended up going almost 2 laps down, got himself battled back, and ended up finishing 15th. But I mean, that just kills your Draftkings lineup. Next in line here, Eric Almirola, 7,400, starting 31st. So starting towards the back is fairly decent at a track of this style. Not the best, but not bad. He's not going to finish 31st. As long as he doesn't have any issues or problems, he's going to end up in the teens to lower teens, maybe even possibly cracking the top 10. A lot of PD upside here for Eric Almirola, and he may be somebody that is overlooked with a lot of these other higher price drivers starting from the rear of the field, like a Kevin Harvick. So potential savings here, and really good PD upside. Chase Briscoe, 7,200. No real stats here for Chase at this track. Had a decent practice and decent qualifying, starting 14th. So not a lot of PD room upside. I think he is a high teens, maybe top 20 driver. So don't really love his starting spot. But he had a great run at Daytona, so maybe a little bit of momentum on his side. Bubba Wallace, who was extremely fast during practice, towards the end of practice, decided he would tag the wall. They've made repairs to his car, which he was not able to qualify, so he starting 34th and holding on to that 34th spot. There's only 2 spots worse to go. But Bubba Wallace at $7,000, even though he is not very good at this style racetrack yet, if he just takes his time and is patient, he will definitely probably improve his starting position. He will be very chalky today. If he keeps himself clean, he could easily have a top 15 or top 10 type of race. But if he has any type of trouble, I mean, I still think he's probably going to improve by at least 10 spots. but he's going to be very, very chalky. A lot of people are going to have him in their lineup starting 34th and at a $7,000 price tag and racing for 23.11. The expectation's going to be for him to move front. Next in line here, Harrison Burton, 6,900. Had a pretty quiet day yesterday at practice and qualifying, starting 22nd, 25th on the power ranking. I mean, could be somebody to take a look at. I don't know how much Harrison Burton I will end up having. So I doubt he will be very chalky. So if you're looking to differentiate your lineups, Harrison Burton may be a pretty good spot to do that. Justin Haley, 6,700. Here's another driver who will be extremely chalky. Very fast during practice. They ended up having to make some changes inside the car, so he will be starting 35th, not to even take a qualifying lap. That's going to be super chalky along with Bubba Wallace. So 6,700, Justin Haley may be somebody to really target, other than the fact it may be much better of a cash play than a tournament play. I will have exposure to Justin, no doubt, but how much? You've got to differentiate somewhere to win in the tournaments. But if you're doing a cash, double up, or those types of things, definitely you might want to target Justin Haley and probably Bubba Wallace if you're doing cash tournament or cash DFS plays. Daniel Hemrick starting 5th. Did really too well, in my opinion. He's going to be fast. He's a really good driver, but I really do not like his starting position with everybody else trying to work their way back up through the field. There is no PD upside play here, in my opinion, for Daniel. Driving for a great team, great driver. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just don't like the non-PD upside play with Daniel. Eric Jones, I called him out on the Friday video as being somebody to keep an eye on. I guess I was right there, other than he decided to do really well during his qualifying run and will be starting 2nd. Don't like that because there's no PD upside play for Eric. I mean, he's a value player, but starting 2nd, there's no real huge PD upside here play, and I don't think he is going to be any faster than Austin Cindric. So there's a bunch. I mean, I don't think he's faster than Denny Hamlin here. I don't think he's faster than any of these other guys. I don't like the play anymore. I won't have much exposure to Eric Jones, which is bad. He outkicked his coverage, pretty much. All right. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 6,200, starting 17th. Had a pretty quiet day yesterday. No real issues in practice or qualifying, and got a 17th qualifying spot. So not a big. Might be somebody to look at. Same thing with Daniel Suarez. Kept his nose clean, had some pretty good practice laps, and got himself a 15th qualifying spot. Once again, do I think Ricky and Daniel are going to be as good as those other guys? Maybe. But they also haven't found that line yet of how far and how hard they can push the cars. And if they push over that edge, as we saw, these cars whip around and they're very hard to save. Cole Custer, our Xfinity winner yesterday, starting 21st. I tell you what, momentum is big, so he's going to have some momentum. He's at his home track. He got 160 laps of practice yesterday. Yes, it was in a different car, but I still think potentially he's somebody that we could look at targeting. Starting 21st, there is some PD upside here. All depending if he keeps his nose clean. That's going to be the case with any of these people we're talking about. Michael McDowell, 5,700, starting 23rd. Don't love his average finishes here. He kept his nose clean. No real issues or problems in practice or qualifying yesterday. I don't think there's even really PD upside play here. I'd rather take Cole Custer for $200 more. Ty Dillon, starting 18th, kept his nose clean, had a good qualifying lap for Ty. May have outkicked his coverage a little bit, but at 5,500, it's not a bad play. I mean, in Ty Dillon, a couple years ago, he was like my shoe-in pick for my value driver. He's just a good, solid race car driver. Never really kind of competes for a top 5 spot, but every once in a while he can get himself into a top 10 or top 15 type ride. Starting 18th, not a whole lot of PD upside there, but not a bad play. Todd Gillen here, he quietly had a decent little quiet day yesterday. No problems or issues in practice or qualifying. Wasn't super fast because he's starting 26, but he's still getting used to this car. I mean, he's coming out of a truck that had super downforce, and it would just stick to the track no matter where they were, to now racing this car. So he jumped over the Xfinity Series, which is the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series are much, much more similar now. The Xfinity cars are much looser, not as much downforce, and that's what we're seeing in this new Cup car. And Todd has jumped over that series straight into Cup. I don't know how that plays out for Todd. Could be a big surprise and he ends up doing super well, but I still think he's kind of feeling this car out. I think he'll be very patient. If we're trying to save some money here, Todd's not a bad pick. He's probably better than some of these other guys we're about ready to come into. But it's going to be a long climb for Todd. I think he's going to do very well in the Cup Series. His dad did super well in this series, not super well, but his dad was a consistent driver. I don't mind starting Todd if we're trying to save some money. 5100 Corey LaJoie here might be just as good of a pick. Corey's been in the Cup Series for a while. He's now got an equal playing field. Corey may be somebody to take a look at $5,100 starting 25th. I mean, he's going to lose a couple spots at the start because some of these more experienced guys are going to come to the field, or higher funded teams are going to come to the field. But if Corey plays it smart and keeps his nose clean and keeps his car clean, he could end up having a top 15, somewhere in the teens type of day. Cody Ware starting 27th. I think he's starting too far up. I don't think he outkicked his coverage. He didn't qualify that well. But because everybody else had problems and had to go to the rear, I think he's going to end up getting passed. So I don't like Cody Ware's starting spot or his experience. Same thing with Josh Bilicki here. I think he's going to be in a fast car, but I just don't think his experience. He doesn't really have experience at this style track or with this car. Nothing's making me go, ooh, I need to take Josh Bilicki. I don't think I'll have much of him. I mean, if we're really trying to save some money, maybe, but I'd rather, pay up $300 for Corey LaJoie. Garrett Smithley, 4,700, starting 29th. It's another one. These guys were guys that literally, when I got to them, when we were doing this breakdown, I would be like, don't start them. They don't ever show up in the optimal lineup. Well, very, very rarely do they ever show up in an optimal lineup. But this thing could be a wreck fest. These top drivers could end up just tearing their cars up, and if Cody Ware, Josh Bilicki, and Garrett Smithley just quietly hang out in the back, they could end up with a top 10 day. I don't foresee that happening. I foresee these guys kind of figuring this car out, in the first stage and probably the second stage, and be able to get really racy with them by the final stage. But between drop of the green and the end of stage 2, who knows what's going to happen with the car drivers. Same thing here with BJ McLeod. I would never tell you in the million years to start BJ McLeod unless we were at Daytona or Talladega and strictly waiting for the big one. Well, we may quietly have a lot of small ones. I'm not sure we have a big one at this track. We may have lots of small incidents that take a lot of great cars out of contention. If that's the case, and BJ McLeod and Garrett Smithley and Josh Bilicki and Cody Ware just keep their stuff clean, may end up being somebody to take a look at. But it's really risky. We're risky across the board. And trying to come up with dominators now with all the issues. Here, let's double check real quick to see if there's any news on Kyle Busch is going to the back. Hey, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button while I'm looking at this. Greatly helps out the algorithms. If you got any questions, put them up in the chat. I am kind of glancing at that every once in a while if you're still watching. Don't see any information. If anybody out there has heard any information on whether Kyle Busch is going to the rear, let me know in the chat. All right, nothing really there. So my Dominator picks: Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex, Kyle Larson, and Alex Bowman. Place differential guys. All these guys are going to be super chalky today. Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Ross Chastain, Justin Haley, all going to be chalky. I like Alex Bowman, even though he is starting 14th for a place differential, because I think Alex Bowman could easily have himself a top 3 day today. Won this race 728 days ago, or 2 years. And he also does well at this type of track. Bubba Wallace is going to be super chalky. But, you know, if we're putting a cash lineup together, I think you figure out a way to put Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Bubba Wallace, and some cheaper guys. Oh, by the way, it is Ty Dillon's birthday. If there's any kind of birthday luck that happens, and that is a thing. I know it's kind of superstitious, but that the birthday effect is definitely something that happens, and it is Ty Dillon's birthday today. Keep that in mind. But my finished guys / value, so the single asterisk would be the value, so the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ty Dillon would be my 2 value potential picks. Potentially good guys to target for better finishes. I expect Kyle Busch, regardless of where he starts, to make it to the front. Joey Logano, Brett Keselowski, Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, and those guys. If you want to take a shot on Austin Cindric or Eric Jones, I don't think I'm going to, but they potentially could have a little bit of Dominator upside at the beginning of the race. I don't think towards the end of the race that holds true. Austin might, and Eric might. He does well here, but a couple other guys to potentially look at: Harrison Burton and Cole Custer. So optimal lineups in the past. A lot of PD upside from the 2020 race with Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain, and Eric Jones all starting 27th or worse. Alex Bowman starting 3rd, led 110 laps and finished 1st. Was huge domination for that race. The tire wear was not as severe as it is now, plus the new car. So, both of these, we're looking at 1 Dominator and, at 5 placed PD upside guys in 2020, but really only 2 in the 2019 race. So we got to balance it with, I think we're going to see a lot of PD upside for this race. So I think we need to find 1 Dominator and at least 4 place differential guys, and then we're probably going to have to go and look for one value. Or 2 value, depending on how you set your lineups. But either way, don't see any questions in chat. We're starting to get close to the time where I'm going to wrap this up and get some things done. Let's check the old Twitter sphere one more time to see if there's any information about Kyle. So if Kyle does end up holding his spot, I would put him as one of the bigger Dominators. If Kyle is sent to the rear for his unapproved change, I would not. So good luck. If you have any questions, I'll keep on monitoring this as the day goes, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. But I appreciate you tuning in, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Good luck today. Let me know if you do super well, if you end up playing Draftkings, or if this information helped for Fantasy Live. I'm going to go set my lineups. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the race. Thanks. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Mac. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys.
Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.